screening.
The number of people fired over social media posts continues to rise. According to a recent survey, 70% of employers have taken disciplinary actions against employees for misuse. Our digital expert, Dave Hatter from Definity Partners, is here to shed some light on the growing trend. Dave, how are you?
I'm good, Rob. How are you?
Why are companies so concerned?
Well, I think because there's potential exposure for them, either from employees just doing things that make them look bad, but probably on a more serious note, things like you violate an NDA, you leak out information that has confidential implications or something like that. So I think there's a growing concern because companies realize this really isn't a fad, it's not going away.
Yeah, what about this though? There's a difference between putting out something that your company says is against policy, like insider secrets, and putting out something that your company thinks is distasteful.
Well, and I think that's really the really gray area comes in, and it's difficult to decide, like, where do you draw that line? Because obviously a lot of younger employees and potential employee candidates are familiar with social media, they want to use it, and there's a lot of benefit to this stuff too. So I think employers are having a hard time drawing the line with that, and I think the first step really is to have some kind of policy, because without a policy, you really can't enforce it all.
Okay, let's talk about this. In terms of enforcement, what if they say, the employee says, look, it was on my own time, I did it on my own computer, I did it on my own phone, I wasn't even at the building.
Well, and that's, now I'm no attorney, Rob. You raise a really, really good point there. And, you know, like Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act potentially has implications on this. Some states have laws that protect employees' rights in this area. This gets into a really gray area. And I guess the best advice I would give for most companies is, I don't know why you would care what employees are doing on their own time if it's not directly impacting your company. You know, in my opinion, that's their business, that's their time, you shouldn't be concerned with it. But I think probably you need to seek legal counsel, you need to look at other social media policies and understand, what does the law in your state say, because different states have different rules, and then figure out where to go from there, because there's all kinds of technological solutions to try to clamp down on this, but once they're outside of your building, it gets very tricky.
Okay, let's talk about that. I mean, how do they monitor what you do on social media? The University of Cincinnati, one of the largest employers here, thousands of employees, how are they going to figure out what employee is doing what on social media?
Well, you know, a lot of that could be automated. For example, I mean, one simplistic way for a small employer, there's software you can get as a big guy like you see, but for a small employer, you could just use something like Google Alerts. And you could track anytime your company name shows up, you could track what your employees are saying, and anything they post publicly, Google Alerts will pick that up. The trickier thing is stuff you don't, so if you and I are friends on Facebook and I share something with you as my friend, Google Alerts can't get to that. Okay. So, you know, there is some potential installation there, but now, then again, I can't control what you do with that information. If I say something I shouldn't have said and then you share it, it's why this is a really tricky area, and while I think businesses need to pay attention to it, they also need to tread lightly and understand what the law says, because there's potential blowback for the business.
And the other thing is that everything is changing so quickly, by the time you get a policy in place, it might be outdated already, correct?
That's a really good point too. And again, it's how can you track the stuff that they're doing outside your walls? Virtually impossible, short of making a large investment in a lot of software to track it, and even then, you need to seek legal counsel and understand the laws, because again, there's potential blowback on you as an employer for violating various laws.
And the other thing is you don't want to get left in the dust because you're not on board with social media.
Well, and that's the other thing, you know, if you switch it around the other way, there are a lot of pros to this, from business intelligence, recruiting candidates, customers, potential customers. It's not all bad. This is a really tricky subject.
Okay. Dave Hatter from Definity Partners, he's talking about how employers should view social media. Coming up, we're going to talk with Julie Balke. She's a career expert. She's going to tell you how you stay out of trouble in terms of using social media.
Yeah, you should listen to her.
I know.
That's some good advice.
Dave, all the best to you. We have much more straight ahead right here on Fox 19.